Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, I see we're only missing, I think, one person now. So we could do a quick review whilst we wait on that person to come in. So you can give me the two types of companies. No, we can't hear you, Dominique.
Companies limited by shares and limited by guarantee.
Okay, and in company limited by shares, is that usually the one we use or no? Which company we usually use?
Limited by guarantee.
So the one limited by guarantee is usually used for which kind of setup? Non-profit, remember? Remember we use the company limited by guarantee usually with non-profits. What about a public company? What that is? What the public company is all about? You all got to read it over or it's still not so clear? You all can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ms. Dossett. Sorry. I read it over, but I may not answer as much in class today because I have a striking headache.
Okay, no problem.
So if you don't see me participating as much, that's the reason why.
Okay. So we have international business companies, and upon registration, what happens with the international business company? Okay, only push the area.
Upon registration.
What we need for it to be registered?
Certificate of incorporation.
So what we need to have it registered, the registrar gives us, right, the registrar gives us the certificate of incorporation. How do we get it registered? We have to first reserve the name.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Reserve the name, and what we have to pay to reserve the name.
Is it $25?
Right, we pay the $25 and that's reserved for 28 days. If we want an extension, we have to pay $30 for 14 days, and a further extension would be another $30 for 14 days.
Yes.
Once we reserve the company, we prepare the what documents we prepare? Which are signed by the subscribers.
The memo notes?
Right, the memorandum and articles of association, they're signed by the subscribers, usually at least 2 members. And they are also the first shareholders of the company, right? Yeah. And then we also prepare a certificate of compliance to say that we are in good, that we've followed all of the requirements to incorporate a company. What we also have to do is pay the incorporation fee, which is usually how much?
$400. Up
$400
to
for,
5,000, 50,000, and
right.
1,200 for capital over 50,000 or over 50,000.
Excellent. The annual government fee is for an IBC with a capital of 50,000 or less is how much?
$350.
And for over 50,000?
$1,000.
Excellent. If we don't pay that money within a prescribed time, the annual fee by January 1st, we start to incur penalties after January 1st, eh?
Yes.
And we incur those penalties until December 31st. If that fee is not paid by then, the company is struck off the register, and to get it stored, you would have to pay restoration fees in addition to the fees outstanding and the penalties. We have types of IBCs. The IBCs may be limited by shares, limited by guarantee, and unlimited company, or limited duration company. We know what's inside the memo and ask what's usually in there.
The memorandum, the name of the company, location of the registered office of the company, the location of the registered agent, a statement of objects, the authorized capital, and defines the class of shares to be issued, a statement of the number of shares to be issued as registered shares, and the currency in which the shares are to be issued.
Okay, is there any minimum capital requirement for an IBC?
No, there aren't.
Is there any minimum number of directors?
Yes, it's required to have only one director.
At least one, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the shareholder? How many shareholders we need?
One as well, at least one.
And the IBC offers us some features, additional features, including the confidentiality and exemption from some stamp taxes in the Bahamas. Once the IBC is not doing business with Bahamians, eh? We remember what the Solomon principle is. What is the Solomon's principle? What is Solomon's principle?
That the company is separate and apart from its directors and shareholders.
From its members and directors.
Okay.
On the incorporation of companies and integrate knowledge and skills in the incorporation of companies. So we'll start with Chris Iria.
Do I say the types of companies?
Yes, types of companies. You start from there.
Okay. For the purposes of this course, this unit will focus on company incorporations for the international business companies, IBCs, under the following legislation: International Business Companies Act 2000 as amended, and International Business Companies Amendment Act 2014. Terms of incorporation. Certificate of incorporation, a document issued by the Registrar General as evidence that all the requirements under the relevant act have been compiled with, that the company is a company authorized to be registered and is duly registered under the relevant act. Memorandum of Association, a document which contains the fundamental provisions of the company's constitution, specifically its name, the type of company, registered office name and address, objects, limitation of liabilities, capital, types and classes of shares, and shareholders' names. Articles of Association, a document which contains the provisions of the internal affairs, operation, and management of the company, specifically its issuance, transfer, and transmission of its shares, procedures of its meetings, appointment, resignation, and removal of its directors, accounts, seals, signing authority, indemnification, and winding up. The Memorandum of Association. The Memorandum of Association contains the fundamental provisions of the company's constitution, Section 3 through 13 International Business Company Act 2000 as amended. These provisions include the names of the company, the registered office, the activities it will undertake, share capital, class of shares, etc. Memorandum of Association for International Business Companies. Under the International Business Companies Act 2000 as amended, Section 3, subject to requirements of the Act, 2 or more persons may, by subscribing to a memorandum, incorporate a company under this Act. Section 4, only persons / entities licensed under the Financial Corporate Service Providers Act 2000 may incorporate an IBC, other than a bank and trust company licensed under the Bank and Trust Companies Regulation Act 2000. Section 5.
Okay, so they tell us here in that section in particular, who can incorporate an IBC? Section 4 deals with that. So if somebody asks you, well, why we won't be able to do it, this section will direct you will give you directions in advising anyone why they can't incorporate it if they're not licensed under the FCSP Act, or if they're not bank and trust companies registered under the Banks and Trust Companies Regulation Act.
That's fine. Section 5, IBC may be incorporated for any object or purpose other than a criminal object or purpose. The liability of members of a company may, according to the memorandum, be limited by shares, be limited by guarantee, be limited by shares and guarantee, be unlimited. The memorandum for an IBC shall...
1 second. What is a company limited by shares and guarantee? What do we call that?
Private.
What? Say it again.
Is it a private company?
No, it's a hybrid, remember?
Or hybrid, but that's when it's combined.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, where you can have limited by shares and guarantee.
Mm-hmm. Continue?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. The memorandum for an IBC shall include the following information: name of the company, the location in the Bahamas of the registered office of the company, the location in the Bahamas of the registered agents of the company, the objects or purposes for which the company is to be incorporated, the currency in which the shares in the company shall be issued. For a company limited by shares, we are limited solely by shares with par value or both by shares and by guarantee. A statement of the authorized share capital of the company setting forth the aggregate par value of the shares that the company is authorized to issue. We are limited solely by shares without par value, the amount represented by such shares that the company is authorized to issue. We are limited both by shares of par value and shares without par value, the total of the aggregate par value of and amount represented by such shares respectively. For a company limited by guarantee, a statement that each member undertakes to contribute to the assets of the company in the event of a winding up during the time he is a member or within 1 year afterwards, for payment of the debt and liabilities of the company. In the case of a company limited by shares and guarantee, the statements in E and F. I, in the case of an unlimited company, a statement that the liability of the members is unlimited. J, a statement of the number of classes and series of shares, the number of shares of each such class and series, and the par value of shares with par the par value of shares with par value, and the shares may be without par value if applicable. Okay. Statement about the designation, power, preferences and rights, and the qualifications, limitations, or restrictions of each class or series of shares that the company is authorized to issue, unless the directors are authorized to fix the foregoing. The memorandum
Okay,
shall
so
be...
we have so far, we repeating again, like I say, most of this we'll be repeating and expanding on. So now we delve in further into the Memorandum of Association for an IBC. We have to ensure that in the memo you have the name of the company, the location of its registered office and agent, the objects and purposes, all purposes for which the company is to be incorporated. And what section of the IBC takes care of that? The objects and purposes. We just read it.
The memorandum.
Which section of the IBC Act covers that section where we can put the objects and purposes?
Section 5.
Excellent. So section 5 takes care of that. The currency in which the shares in the company shall be issued: US dollars, B dollars, pounds, Swiss francs. For a company limited by shares, we should have distinguishing how the shares are to be divided, and in that instance, we'll say whether it's limited solely by shares, what the par value is, or where it's limited solely by shares without a par value that'll be indicated. So these are some of the features the IBC has where they can include or exclude certain instances of the shares. One particular one is where they can put in the company is unliable, the liability is unlimited. So I don't know what purpose you would want to incorporate a company and the liability is unlimited, unless you have another company owning that company and so forth and so on. But I'm sure nobody would want to stand in the gap to say they'll hold the bag for a company unless they are trying to get some financing or interest where they're sure they can secure the funds if anything happens. So this is a breakdown of how the shares would be set up, and this information should be indicated in your Memorandum of Association. So you would say, for instance, if you had, say, J, a statement of the number of classes and series of shares, the number of shares of each class and series. Sometimes you have people who have class A series is 10,000 shares divided into $10,000 divided into 10,000 shares, or 10,000 shares at a par value of 10 cents each. And then class B may be, and class A may have non-voting rights. Class B may be divided into 5,000 shares of $100 each. And they have preferential voting rights. So you can separate it, and that's where you'll distinguish some shareholders from others as well. So all of these things are available in the memorandum for the IBC to set out how their share capital is structured. Okay. Okay. Continue, Christeria.
Okay.
Any questions before we continue? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, we can continue.
Okay.
I don't know, Dominique, is your mic still not working? It is working? You can hear us, right?
I can't hear her. I think it's still down.
Okay. Okay then. But I hope she can hear us at least.
Yeah, I think she can hear us. I just hear a sound from her end.
Okay, good. All righty. That's good.
Okay. The memorandum shall be subscribed by 2 persons in the presence of another person who shall sign his name as witness. The memorandum, when registered, binds the company and its members. The company and its members must observe the provisions of the memorandum. The full name of the company is found is found the first clause first clause of the Memorandum of Association.
That should say in the first clause.
In the first, okay.
Yeah, because you introduced it. So number one will be the name of the company is, and you put the name of the company which you would have reserved.
Yes, ma'am. To be included in the naming clause, the name of the company shall have already been approved, confirmed to be available, and preserved at the company's registry. Only company names ending in limited Ltd, limited liability company LLC, corporation Corp, Corporate Inc, Chesil Shah, GB, GmbH. Okay, I have to say this one. Associate data nominate.
Yeah, you get it. Anonymous.
Anonymous. Are allowed
You know,
for
that's like a Spanish thing, so they may have a different. We pronouncing it how we see it, but of course it may
how we
be
see it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
See Section 12 for provisions regarding the company name for an IBC. Under Section 3 of the International Business Companies Amendment Act 2014, the IBC Amendment Act, the name of the intended company may consist of words, a combination of words and numbers, or contain a dual name which may include an English and foreign name. The English name need not to be translated of the foreign name. However, where a foreign name is used, the applicant for the name reservation and subsequently the company must provide the translation of the accent, characters, other distinctive marks, scripts, and symbols used in the foreign name.
What we say about the foreign name, they have to pay for that?
I think they have to pay.
Okay, what it tells us they have to pay, or you think so?
And I can check, but I remember them having to pay.
Remember, we have to provide the English name, so that's a dual registration, and then you have to, right, you have to pay for both.
Mm-hmm. So if people doing these, it's $50.
It's a $50, yeah. The fee for dual name reservation is $50.
Excellent. So you all remember it now. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm. International business companies. Under the International Business Companies Act 2000 as amended, Sections 14 and 15 of the IBC Act provision related to the Articles of Association of an IBC. Section 14(1), articles shall be subscribed by two persons in the presence of a witness, and they shall be filed with the register on the same date as the filing of the Memorandum of Association. Section 14(2), the Articles of Association, when registered, binds the company and its members. Section 15, the memorandums and articles of association, when registered with the register, are placed in a register maintained by the register known as the Register of IBCs. Section 15(4), a certificate of compliance issued by a counsel and attorney engaged in the formation of the company or the registered agent named in the Memorandum of Association. As a registered agent, must accompany the memorandum and articles of association in order for them to be registered by the registrar.
Okay, so remember when we started to do our recap? So now you see it's now expanding on what we were recapping, right? What we say about it? The memo and arts have to be signed by
two people and a witness.
Right, two subscribers and a witness. And when it's registered, it binds.
It binds the company and its members.
The members and the company.
And then what must go along with this memorandum and articles of association?
The certificate of compliance.
Awesome. So the certificate of compliance. And the certificate of compliance is issued by who?
a counsel and attorney.
Or
okay, who is engaged in the formation or the registered agent name in the memorandum.
Yes,
good. Okay. So I'm just making sure you all keep linking and drawing back and moving it forward. So you see how it just keeps expanding on what we've already read? It's just opening it up more so you can get a breakdown of it a little further, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a lot of repetition, so you should be able to recite most of everything here when we, right?
Yeah, it's easy to remember since it's repetitive.
Yes, good. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
The articles of association of both types of companies include the following provisions: shares and transmission of shares, meetings, voting rights and proxies, appointment, resignation, and removal of directors, powers of directors, management of the company, seal, authentication of documents, accounts, indemnification, audit, and winding up.
Okay, these provisions that are in the articles of what, when you go to a bank, they want to see this document, or if you enter into a contract with someone, they want to see this article to see your powers. So they want to see how the shares can be registered, how they can be transmitted, how the meetings must be held, who can sign in these meetings, what is the proxy, what's the quorum for a meeting to be held, who have voting rights, who don't, how you can appoint directors, how you can remove them, how they can resign, what powers do the directors have? Because then we have an instance where the shareholders may retain powers, what the directors have, right? We have an instance where that can happen?
Yes.
And what usually is done with that? How would the shareholders retain those powers?
Is it it's in a okay, 1 second.
Do you remember it? It's an agreement,
No,
right? What
the,
agreement
no,
it was?
the
Unanimous
shareholders agreement.
And what happens with that? When we do that, where that have to go? When you
To
have
the
a unanimous
registrar within
shareholders
15 days after the execution.
Excellent. Yes, yes. And if any termination, 15 days after the execution or after termination. So that's what will change the director's power. It'll also tell us about who manages the company and how it's to be managed, where's the seal to be kept, and who has the power to authorize or sign under the seal, how documents can be authenticated, how the accounts are set up, what indemnification is provided for, if it's directors, liquidators, etc. If there's an audit, and who's appointed as auditors, or who can be appointed as auditors, and how winding up will take place in the company. So all of these things, I can go to this library, which is the articles, and find out. I'll go into, this is their dictionary to tell me how these things are done. So this is their bylaws and how it's set up. So this is like the constitution documents of the company. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll give you a break, criteria at the end of this one, and requirements for incorporation. I see Symphony joined us, so she perhaps can help us with that.
Okay.
Okay, sure, Miss Darcy. So you want me to go ahead with that now?
No, Criteria has to finish her last bit, 1 to 12.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Main constitutive documents and instruments for IBCs. Certificate of incorporation, certificate of compliance.
Okay, I think on mute, Criteria.
Oh, sorry. Main constitutive documents and instruments for IBCs. Certificate of incorporation, certificate of compliance, memorandum and articles of association, share certificate book, share transfer forms, corporate seal, management/corporate director agreement as applicable, register of members, register of directors and officers, register of mortgages and charges as applicable, subscribers minutes, appointment of first directors, nominee agreement, and seal log. Requirement for the incorporation of IBCs.
Okay, so we're going to let Symphony start off here. We're giving you a break. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Ms. Darcy, I have a question. Would it be okay to ask now?
Yes, you go ahead.
Okay, sure. So when it's a certificate of compliance, are they referring to the TCC that you would get from Inland Revenue?
No, this is actually what you have to file as a part of your main constitutive documents in incorporating. So when you prepare your memorandum and articles of association to which follows you getting the name reserved, you have to also file a certificate of compliance, which is usually filed and which is usually prepared by who? Who prepares this? Christeria, who prepares this for us? Christeria left. Who prepares the certificate of compliance?
Sorry, is it a registered agent?
Right, so either the attorney who's involved in the formation or the registered agent named in the memorandum and articles signed the certificate of compliance. And what the certificate of compliance says is all of the requirements of the act have been complied with. And so we're saying this company is complied with all of the requirements and can now be incorporated.
Okay, so the certificate of compliance.
So that's different than.
It doesn't go to like no outside body. It's done by either of those parties and accompanies the articles of association.
And it has to, right. And if you don't have that, they won't incorporate your company. So it's like with a regular company, you have to file a statutory declaration. With an IBC, you have to file a certificate of compliance. Okay. So that's a part of the documents needed for you to incorporate an IBC. If you don't file, if you don't have a certificate of compliance, the company can't be incorporated.
Okay, good then. Okay, thanks for that explanation.
Not a problem. Anything else?
No, I understand.
Okay then, so you could help us with a little reading.
Sure.
We don't want to go. Oh, Chrissy, we make you read the whole class, but anyway, thank you.
That's fine.
Okay, so requirements for the incorporation of IBCs. For name reservation, provide 3 company names in order of preference. The names may end in Corporation, Inc., Corp, SA, etc. Complete the incorporation form of FCSP. The company name is reserved initially for 28 days, and name reservation can be extended for 2 periods of 14 days each. Payment of the name reservation fee of $25 or $30 dual name reservation and extension fee of extended of $30. Complete FCSP form.
This information here, this is like a checklist. Okay, so you as an administrator in the trust company in ensuring that the documents are complying with for you to get this company incorporated, you will set up a checklist like this to see whether you have everything in order, your ducks are lined up in a row. So these step by step to tell you when you could do step 1 now, step 2, then step 3, and so forth and so on. So this is a good checklist for you to keep as precedent for you following even in your regular daily practice. Okay.
Excuse me, Ms. Dorset, sorry. Ms. Dorset?
You can hear me?
Oh, yes. I wanted to know if you could hear me. Sorry. I see where it says $30 for dual name reservation. Shouldn't that be $50?
So 20 payment of name reservation fee of 25 or 30. An extension fee, yeah, that's supposed to be 50 because you have to pay for both. Let's make sure let's see what it was in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it said $50 for the dual name.
Right, so let's make sure.
It did say 50.
Yeah, so that's a typo. So let's fix that.
Okay, I'll correct. I'll correct it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the observation.
Okay.
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 Complete FCSP form. Provide the names, nationalities, complete addresses, occupations of the directors and shareholders of the company. IBCs are required to have at least one director and one shareholder. Provide the number of shares for each shareholder. The standard share capital is 5,000 divided into 5,000 shares. Provide KYC and due diligence of the shareholders and directors. Obtain Central Bank of the Bahamas approval exchange control / Bahamian shareholding. Provide the objective purpose of the company. Provide names of the intermediaries, example, bank, law firm, etc., as applicable. Complete HTML form online or upload memorandum and articles of association. Upload certificate of compliance. Pay incorporation fees of $400 for capital up to $50,000 or $1,200 for capital over $50,000. Express incorporation within 1 hour is additional $450. Provide any additional documents required, inclusive of register of directors and officers.
Okay, so now we repeating some stuff, right?
Yeah.
So now y'all getting this. You see, I tell you this could be like ABC or so on. So now we have names, we reserve the names, we complete the FCSP form. So this FCSP form is also an internal document to the company itself, because you want to get this document for your own KYC and due diligence purposes. So KYC and due diligence documents, of course, you would, it's according to your institution, but usually you need identifications. You may need references. You may need to know the source of funds. How are they getting funds? If they're employed or if they inherited some funds, they'd have to prove this, of course. And their bank reference would be viable in this instance. Obtain Central Bank of the Bahamas approval. This is only necessary if we have what in an IBC?
Foreign company.
Foreign person.
So this is an IBC. Why we need Central Bank approval? The answer right there.
Because
exchange control.
Right, but why? Why you need exchange control approval? Because what? The answer right there.
If it's a Bahamian as a shareholder.
Because, say it again.
If it's a Bahamian as a shareholder.
Right, because so this was initially intended for what? Offshore purposes, eh?
Yes.
So there's right. So we don't have to pay all these fees, eh? We don't have to pay stamp duty and all of this stuff. So when there's a Bahamian involved, then the central bank takes place, because as a Bahamian, can you just open up and do all kind of business offshore without, well, I mean.
No, ma'am. I mean, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, because
you're not supposed to.
That may not be the case, but we're not supposed to, eh? We're supposed to go through central bank so they will know what funds are leaving the country for all intents and purposes.
But some people still find a loophole though to do it without it.
So, I mean, Bahamians don't really adhere to that unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
Provide names of intermediaries. So if you're dealing with another bank, law firm, or investment company, that will be provided as well. Upload, you see what we have to do? Upload the certificate of compliance. So that's a part of your documents required for incorporation. So you see this here, it says requirement for incorporation, and we can provide any additional documents, register of directors and officers. Is that required at incorporation?
Yes.
We can incorporate without that, right? And we can just file that afterward. If we don't have it at incorporation, we can always upload it. We can send it in for filing after we would have incorporated it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that, Ms. Darcy.
Right. So initially, remember when we talk about that, when we say incorporating and what is usually sent in, and you can upload this HTML form, or you can upload your own forms, and then you can upload the register of directors at the time, officers and directors, but it's not necessary because you can always send it in afterward.
Okay, but what's most important is the shareholders though.
No, remember the shareholders are not public record in an IBC, right?
Right.
Oh, I missed that one.
It's,
Okay.
I think it's the register.
Look on the bottom of page 24. We first spoke about it there.
The address of the registered agent. I mean, the address of the registered office and so forth has to be.
Right, that'll be a part of your memorandum, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
So we can reconcile this. We can put this information and say, see page 24.
Okay. Okay.
You see, that will help you in going back and forth and reviewing the document.
Okay. So where it says the share capital is 5,000, you don't have to say who the shares are being divided amongst.
Remember now, it's not amount who we share. What we're gonna do when we put that 5,000, we're gonna say how it's gonna be set out.
Mm-hmm.
How the share capital will be set out, and you will choose from page 33 to 34. Remember where we say we'll set out where it's limited solely by shares without par value.
Mm-hmm.
The amount represented by such shares that the company is authorized to issue. So all of this will be set out in how the share structure is.
Okay.
So you will choose from here how your shares are going to be set up, but you don't mention your shareholders here. It's only going to say, either you're going to have that one statement to say the authorized capital of the company is $5,000 divided into 5,000 shares of one each, or you'll say share capital is divided into 3 classes of shares, A, B, C, D. A shares out of this whole, let's say 5,000 shares. A has, let's say 2,000, B has 1,500, C has 1,500. And A is the preferential share group, they have voting rights. And their share of par value is say $100. B share par value is 10 cents. C share par value is 5 cents. You see?
Yes, ma'am. So like how it says the rush fees is $450, right?
Now that's changed as well. They increased that to $500. So sometimes you want a company incorporated right away. They can do it for you in an hour or two, but you would have to pay that additional fee. So that's a service charge they charge you for rush. So that's a courier service. You're getting it right away.
Okay, so let's just so
your fees.
That's what I was just gonna ask you. So like, let's just say as the corporate service provider, how do you like price? Like, let's just say if someone now coming to they want to pay the $500. How do you charge them and accordingly in terms of all of these different fees? Like, is that discussed as well, or that's just basically as to your firm's discretion?
So they want it to be washed, right? So if you pay in the registry $500, I think I should get some wash fees too, eh? Yeah,
I'm assuming so. Sure.
Yeah, so you may your rush fees may be $1,000.
And
because of course you're not going to be on the level of the government. You are professional service and you offering services to the public. So of course you're going to charge a lot more. And then they have to pay, that's separate and apart from what you charge to incorporate, from what their fees are to incorporate from their, so usually you may charge say $2,500 for incorporation, and that includes all the fees. But now they want it washed. So you'll add another $1,500 on there. So it'll cost them $4,000 as compared to $2,500.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So they usually have their fees included when you have to drop everything else to deal with this one person. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we have our checklist now for the company incorporation and post incorporation.
Okay, is that for me to read or someone else?
Yes, please.
Okay. Checklist. Okay, you already said that. Reserve company name, number 1. Prepare memorandum and articles of association for signature, original. Prepare memorandum and articles of association, confirmed copy. Prepare certificate of compliance. Request check for filing and certified copies. Prepare letter to Registrar General. Obtain approval from Exchange Control Department of the Central Bank of the Bahamas of any Bahamian shareholding in the IBC. File memorandum and articles of association along with the certificate of compliance. Order share certificate / share certificate book. Order seal. Prepare subscribers' appointment of first directors. Prepare register of directors and all officers. Have signed by directors / registered agent. File register of directors with the company's registry. Prepare first resolutions of the director. Prepare register of members. Prepare register of charges and mortgages, if applicable. Prepare share certificates. Prepare management and or nominee agreement as applicable. Prepare letter to send documents to client, include invoice. Prepare corporate files.
Okay, so there's post incorporation and add incorporation. So you may have a management or nominee agreement that you would have the client sign between you as the registered agent and the company service provider. So I'm offering professional services to you. The reason I'm doing that is you may ask me to be a director as well. And I don't want you to say that my duties are conflicting where I am putting my profits before being a director. So I'll have this agreement in place to say I'm a director, but I'm offering this service to you. And that's what you agree to pay for me to do it. So it's a full disclosure. So you can't come back and say, you know, she was a director and still was collecting money and acting in her own interest. So that's what you will do there. And you will set out how the terms of the relationship will work out. You will prepare share certificates where it's necessary, because some IBCs may not issue share certificates. It may be too many shareholders, and that'll be an administrative task that would be a bit much, and they are not collecting enough money to do that. And they may have shareholders changing, especially where an IBC is operating for a mutual fund. You may have redeeming and subscription of shares so often it doesn't make sense. And then register. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you were talking. I can wait.
Okay, register of charges and mortgages, only if it's applicable. So where the company enters into, like where they're taking out a mortgage, it should be registered with the Registrar General. So when I come there to search the company, I would know that this company has a mortgage or they have a charge against them, debenture or something or the other. So I won't just go ahead and say, okay, well, there are no charges over the company shares, and so I can take out a charge. So it'll be dishonest for you not as the company to file that. So I would be aware of that. And the register of directors will be filed. Of course, we'll file that with the registrar, and the first resolution of the directors setting out all of the business of the company. It's incorporated, the date of incorporation, the certificate was issued, the registration number, who are the directors and officers appointed, and etc. We'll just reaffirm what happened since the appointment of the first directors by the subscribers.
Okay.
Okay, you can ask the question. That's simple. Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, if all of this can be done digitally or this has to be done on the ground.
Now, what do you mean?
Okay, what I'm saying is like, okay, certain documents are saying to go to the Registrar General office and other stuff like that. Like, do you have to have that done, like, walked in? Or all these things could be done, like, via email or their portal?
Now, you could have done the register of directors. You could have uploaded that online. Incorporation. And they have certain provisions online that you can upload documents, but I don't know that it's up and running as it should.
Okay.
So you still have to walk a lot of things, and now payment of fees, that's online. You don't ever have to worry about going inside to pay. Incorporation, in particular for the IBC, you have to do that online. So they don't do those online unless their system down. You have to do all your incorporation online. So these documents are prepared and scanned or uploaded onto their site, and then they would give you confirmation and you'd pay at the same time. Some of these documents, you have a copy on file if your auditors come to show that you are actually following what you're supposed to be doing. So that's the only reason you have copies of some of these documents.
Okay. Excuse me, Ms. Dawson.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Dawson?
Mm-hmm.
Also, some of them require originals, right? Meaning like wet ink, so they would have to be walked in as well?
No, no. Where we say original, you should have the original on your file.
Okay.
Because if you uploaded that to the registrar, if at any point they said, can you bring that document in so we can see that?
Right.
You should have an original on your file.
Okay.
Because then otherwise they'll say what you were doing, but you should have an original at some point on your file.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And we know the register of members is the register of shareholders, and that's kept only in the registered office, the registered agents with the registered agent, eh? So where we'd find the definition for certificate of incorporation, that's on page 38, number 1, where we'd find the definition of certificate of incorporation.
You'll find it on page 32.
And page 32 says, what is the certificate of incorporation?
A document issued by the Registrar General as evidence that all the requirements under the relevant act have been complied with, that the company is a company authorized to be registered and is duly registered under the relevant act.
Okay, good. What about define a memorandum of association? Where we'll find that?
Same page.
Okay, what is the memorandum?
A document which contains the fundamental provisions of the company's constitution, specifically its official name, the type of company, registered office name and address, objects, limitations of liability, capital, types and classes of shares, and subscribers' names.
Excellent. What about the articles of association? Where we'll find that?
Same page.
Okay.
A document which contains the provisions of the internal affairs, operation and management of a company, specifically its issuance, transfer, and transmissions of its shares, procedures of its meetings, appointment, resignation, and removal of its directors, accounts, seals, signing authority, indemnification, and winding up.
Excellent. List the constitutive documents. Where we'll find the constitutive documents, the list.
Page 35.
Page 35.
And on to page 36.
Okay, tell me what the main documents are, please.
Certificate of incorporation, certificate of compliance, memorandum and articles of association, share certificate book, share certificate transfer forms, share transfer forms, corporate seal, management, corporate director agreement as applicable, register of members, register of directors and officers, register of mortgages and charges as applicable, subscribers minutes, appointment of first directors, nominee agreement, and seal log.
Excellent. List the requirements for the incorporation of an IBC. Where we'll find that?
Page 36.
Okay, so page 36 would be just read, the requirements, and that's from 1 to 12, eh?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the actions to be taken after incorporation of an IBC? Where we'll find that?
Page 37, 1 through 20.
Okay, no, now tell me after incorporation. Where we looking for? Where we start off? What number?
13.
13. Let's go up some more.
Would it be 9?
Yes, from 9 onwards.
Okay.
So we are from 9 onwards. So in this chapter, okay, let me write that simply. Okay, in this chapter, we have the practical knowledge on incorporation. What is the practical knowledge we have now?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So we back on page 32 at the top.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the practical knowledge we know now on company incorporation?
To the practical knowledge.
Guess what? And incorporation, we have a certificate. What we have on incorporation? Certificate of incorporation.
Memorandum of Association.
Memorandum of Association. Right. So on incorporation, we should have all of these things.
These are the practical knowledge.
So practically, we should know that on incorporation, we know a company is incorporated once we have
these three.
And those three are?
Certificate of Incorporation, Memorandums and Articles of Association.
Right. And applying those to incorporation of offshore private companies, what can we do? When we want to incorporate an offshore private company, we need to find out some information, eh?
Under the Business Companies Act, 2000.
Right, so what they need to do, what they need in order to incorporate the company, we need some information from them?
Yes, ma'am.
Such as, just say it again.
Several persons may be subscribed to the Memorandum of Incorporate a company under the Act.
Right,
That's section 3.
So they need to tell us some things, eh? What they need to tell us? What they need to say? What we need to know? We need some KYC information, eh? We need to know why they incorporated in the company. We need to know what names they have. We need to know how they want the shares to be set up, the share structure. We need to know who are going to be the shareholders, who are going to be the directors, where you're getting your source of funding from. What is the object and purpose of this company? Yes?
That's fine.
And then we can put that phrase in there where it's incorporated for any act, any lawful act under the laws of the Bahamas, and where we'd find that. The objects and purposes phrase.
Section 5.
Excellent. You see what I tell you about this repetition? You'll get this without even thinking. What skills, what knowledge and skills we need for the incorporation of company? What we have to do when we file it? We have to do what? Once we file this memo or not, what also has to be filed?
Certificate of compliance.
Certificate of compliance. How about the name reservation? Can I have a company named IBC Bahamas Society?
No. No, ma'am.
No. That's not one of the approved name endings?
No, ma'am.
No. So I have to have certain name endings. And where would I find that, and what section of that? How are you telling me that? You just saying that, or you have some section of the IBC Act telling me that?
Yeah, it tells you that it has to end in either limited, GmbH, Sociedad,
and what section? What section tells me that?
Under section 3.
Section 3, you sure with regard to name endings?
Under section 12.
Section 12, that's right. Section 12 tells me how the name endings. So if your client says, I want to use Society Forever and Ever as my company's name, and you say, well, you can't use that, and he says, why? Then you tell him why. Section 12 says you can only use company names ending in so forth and so on, right?
So a Society Forever and Ever LLC.
When you put that, then we could do that, eh?
Yeah.
But if you don't put LLC on it, if you don't want LLC on it, I can't do nothing for you. I go back to section 12 and tell you, no, I have to use one of these endings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When the subscriber sign, that's all who has to sign?
No, the registered agent or the company that's doing the incorporation has to sign too.
Okay, but
or
I mean,
the attorney?
who, yeah, the attorney, who, when the subscribers sign, don't they need a witness to show, to say they saw them sign?
Yes, they do.
Yes, so we need a witness signing along with the subscribers. And who appoints the first directors?
The subscribers.
Excellent, the subscribers appoints the first directors. And thereafter, we can now prepare our first director's resolution. And what else? What else we can
The
prepare?
register of directors and officers.
Right. What else? Anything else? What about the share certificates?
Yes.
The members register. And then we can, now once we're done, we'll prepare everything and send it on to the client with a letter outlining what has happened, including our invoice for services rendered if we didn't get it beforehand, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'll set up the company file stating this is ABC Company Limited and IBC and go on from there. Any questions on unit 3?
Do you need a copy of the ID of the witness?
Witness, not usually, because most of the people who witnesses work in the office anyway.
Okay, okay. Okay, no problem.
All right, any questions on unit 3?
I think I'll read Ms. Dorset, and if I do, I'll just let you know. But for now, I think I'm good.
Okay, so that okay. So we will go back over, we'll do a little recap, and then we have unit 4. Now unit 4 is a big chapter, not really, but unit 4 is an interesting chapter, mind you. It's very interesting, and it's a big chapter too. So we'll do that Saturday morning when you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll do unit 4 on Saturday. Any questions? That's it?
I have no questions.
Excellent. So I'll send you all a case which you could read ahead of time for unit 4 on Saturday, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I get y'all in and out here quickly so y'all can't say you're tired tonight, eh?
No, ma'am.
So Saturday, no complaints. We good to go.
Yes, ma'am.
God's willing, we'll see each other on Saturday. Take care now.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
All right, good night, everybody.